So I thought I'd just start with a few slides just to introduce the company, and then get into the actual demonstration of our software solution. So my name is Scott Frandsen. I'm with Produmex Americas. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia, and we're going to focus today on our advanced warehouse management. We do have some other components for manufacturing and shop floor integration. We're going to focus mostly on advanced warehouse management. And if you see things that you like today, it'll be very easy for us to schedule with Encaptis for maybe a more in-depth overview at another time. Brief a little bit about us. We are headquartered in Brussels, Belgium. We're one of the larger software solution providers within the SAP marketplace, SAP Business One marketplace. We have customers really all over the globe. Our U.S. headquarters is in Brussels, and our Americas headquarters is a picture down below in Atlanta. In Brussels, we actually rent a castle, but I don't want to give the impression that we spend a lot of money on castles. They're actually pretty easy to rent in Belgium. There's quite a few of them, and it's a fun place to work. It's a fun place for our customers to visit. Allows us to recruit young people and keeps our daily life a little bit more fun than in a traditional office like I have in Atlanta. We've been founded in 2004. We've got about 100 customers worldwide. We have good growth. We're very profitable. We're a certified solution. And we also have a sister company that works in the SAP All-in-One Business Suite market. They work in a lot of the same industries that we work in, and there's a lot of synergies and cross-functional benefits because of that. For those of you familiar with the enterprise market, they've got very sophisticated project management. So we're a robust company, and we work with companies of all size. What I'm going to talk about today is the Produmex business, which is fundamentally a solution for SAP Business One. Quickly, why Produmex? Well, we're a certified solution, so your navigation is going to look familiar to you. It's going to look like your SAP Business One navigation. We are in a single SQL database. If you're familiar with some of the other warehouse management solutions for SAP Business One, some of the primary ones run in a separate SQL database, and you have to do some synchronization between them. We think that our single SQL database makes our solution a lot easier to manage from a technical perspective. We have shop floor to what we say shop floor to top floor integration, and I'll show you some of that. We have thin clients we run in the shop floor. We're used to connecting to devices in the shop floor, be they scales or counters would commonly come across. We're a partner-friendly solution. By that I mean we work with companies like Encaptis. We want to work with the existing SAP Business One reseller channel. They have the relationships and the geographical proximity to their customers, and that's how we choose to work as well. We have a lot of references, and we do well in some particular industries that I'll mention as well. If anybody is in the food industry or the life sciences industry, we have some special capabilities in those industries. There's a lot of regulation affecting those industries lately as it impacts their supply chain. That's been a particularly good market for us. A little bit on our industry focus. Advanced warehouse management is a core competency of ours. At the same time, we've done well in some of the regulated industries, such as food and beverages and life sciences. Life sciences would include pharmaceutical, medical devices, cosmetics, any area where you need to have batch level traceability or serialization and serial level traceability. We do very well in those segments. In addition, those industries usually require FIFO picking, first expiration, first out, which is a little bit different than FIFO picking, first in, first out. And we provide both of those. Some of our references, some of these companies may look familiar to you, some of them may not. We have companies with 2 users, and then we have multinational companies. Ferrero International is one that I'll mention. You may know them because they make products like Tic Tacs, and Nutella and chocolates. That is a multi-billion-dollar company. They run SAP's Business Suite at the corporate offices, but a lot of their smaller regional companies, they run SAP Business One along with Produmex. Quickly, just some of our international projects. We have a number of them all over Europe, the Americas, Asia, Africa. Frere International, I mentioned, is a global project, but we have a number of other companies where they're doing 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 installations of Produmex in different parts of the world. The product is available in Spanish, English, French, Dutch, Italian, German, Chinese. Being headquartered in Europe, obviously we need to be present in multiple languages. The product is designed in English, so the database fields are going to be in English. And we think that's best for our international audience. At the same time, because we're also headquartered in Belgium, we have a superb French version, and I know that that's also important to Canada. Quickly, just some of the functionality that we have. Obviously, with logistics, all the label printing, you would expect very detailed inventory management, much more than you get with standard SAP Business One. We automate the inbound logistics process. We do that with handheld devices, and we'll show that in the demonstration. Also with outbound logistics. We have extensions to the SAP Business One packaging and production capabilities, and we also have thin clients that we put, or terminal clients, if you will, that we can put on your shop floor to start and stop a packaging line or a production line. You'll see more about that. We have some quality management capabilities. If any of your products ever need to be quarantined or inspected, we have the capability to manage that well. I'll show you a little bit about that in the demo. And then, of course, EDI integration, which I think everyone expects. Here's just a screenshot of the user interface for inbound logistics. So typically, a lot of our customers are going to want to work with handheld devices. This is an example of a couple of Motorola devices. And this would be the screens. You would sign in. This is just an example of doing a goods receipt, matching a purchase order to a arrival of products on your receiving docks. In this case, I've done it by matching it to a purchase order. And we print the label as well. I'll show you that in real time. Oops. This is also our production and packaging user interface. Again, it's a thin client. User would sign in, and then they've got the capability to run production or packaging, production receipts, component weighing. All of this functionality you'll see in the demo is really customizable. We have a lot of clients, and the only thing they might be doing is just packaging. So the only button they'll see on the screen is packaging. And underneath the packaging button is additional levels of functionality, and we can tailor that precisely to how our customers want it. Okay, let's take a look at some software. I'm going to jump over to our demo server here. And here is a SAP Business One user interface that most of you would know. We've enhanced it in a couple of areas. I'll just mention those briefly. One is you can see we have a new menu item here, and below that is new sub-menu items. I'll get into that in a bit. We've also made modifications to the item master data. We've got some new fields there to give you broader capability. We've made some modifications to the sales order by adding some new fields and columns, and also with the bill of materials and the production order. We've done this all with the software development kit, so it's going to appear as though these are native fields and functionality within SAP Business One. If I minimize this, you'll see I also have up on my screen our two thin clients. Now, this is all running on one computer, but these would typically be distributed throughout your warehouse or your manufacturing floor. So, for example, this screen here would typically be running on a handheld device. And a user would sign in, and they're going to be able to run different functionality: purchasing, sales, logistics, and production. And of course, this is all customizable, and the same here. In this case, I've put the Encaptis logo on there. Typically, obviously, we'll put our customer's logo on there. And I'll be running these thin clients a little bit. They're not mandatory, but obviously they're very useful. And most of our customers today, they're looking to do advanced warehouse management. They want to have handheld devices. They want to be using barcodes to receive their goods, to move them around their warehouse, to do picking, as well as to do shipping. Before I get into running some transactions, I want to show you some of the capability within Produmex. So one is an organizational structure. And this is a screen where we allow you to set up what your warehouses will look like. So I have a warehouse 1. This is an SAP Business One warehouse. And I also have a second warehouse. I'm calling it 3PL, also an SAP Business One warehouse. And within those, we structure zones and other locations that model your business. So in my receiving zone, I have 2 receiving docks, 2 shipping docks. My freezer zone, I have bulk freezing, I have a pick zone, and this is obviously highly customizable. We have a lost and found. That's useful because when it comes to cycle counting, we use a lost and found concept. I have a packaging zone, and again, I have 2 packaging lines, packing stations. I have some movable carts or forklifts. This can be, in this particular example, this probably looks more than you're used to seeing in standard Business One. This can be relatively simple. At the same time, we have companies that have thousands of locations, and of course, we have automated tools to allow you to create those locations. At any time, I can add a new location. We call them an organizational structure element, OSE. I can add a new bin, a new company, a new dock, a new movable location, packaging lines. We also include where you have some hardware devices, such as printers, because we want to know which handheld devices and which thin clients are working with different printers within your warehouse. We also have the capability to work with silos and tanks, and I'll just mention this. I don't know if anybody has this capability, but oops, I didn't mean to add that. I'm going to delete that because I actually have some silos. We can work with silos and tanks, and obvious examples would be, let's say in the agricultural business, where you're putting corn in on the top and you're taking it out on the bottom. That's sort of a standard concept. We have consumption algorithms for that. So for example, a silo of corn, we're taking things out of the bottom later. But we have a lot of people who work with powders that have the same thing. With tanks, that's a multi-layer. And this can be important for those people that need to track batches of products that go through silos and even liquids that go through tanks. So we can, obviously with a tank, you're going to have multiple batches that could end up in a specific finished good. So we have a lot of functionality, but again, it can be tailored very simply for whatever your purposes are. As I mentioned, we have a lot of small companies as well as a lot of big companies. I'll mention a few other things here. Well, if I'm talking about a specific location, I can define whether it's a pick location or not. I can have it be a fixed location, so I can say only a certain item or certain items are allowed to be here, and I can have minimum quantities, maximum quantities, and replenishment quantities. So, you may have pick locations for fast-moving items that are replenished from your bulk locations. That's a typical example. You'll notice we also have cycle counting capabilities, and that's very strong functionality. It's very simple to use and works with our handheld devices. Okay. I'm going to just show a couple of things before I do a transaction. If I bring up, let's see. Item master, we've added some new fields to the item master data. So for example, I have a details field where we can do things related to shelf life. I can have, if I'm receiving a particular product for this item, I can say that when I receive it, I have a minimum shelf life of 180 days. I don't want to receive any product less than that. We can set up alerts to notify you if it does. At the same time, if I'm delivering this product to a customer, I want to say this has a minimum shelf life of 90 days. These things can actually be over, and that's sort of a item level functionality, and you can actually override this at the customer level. So I could have different customers that require different shelf life, and I can pick the products accordingly. So what might be good for Walmart may not be good for Target if they have different shelf life capability or standards on their products that they receive. I can, of course, dictate specific zones for an item, that it should always be a freezer item, refrigerator, etc. And we can have multiple units of measure for this particular item. Cola, we're going to sell this in a carton, but our unit of measure may be a can, and I can also pick it and receive by cartons and pallets. A couple other things I'll mention. Here you can put in particular remarks related to purchasing, packing, sales, and these remarks can also be transmitted to the thin clients on the shop floor as well as to the handheld devices. Let me go back to my details. We have quality statuses, so I can say when I receive a particular item, I can say it's quarantined. And that would allow you to say, I've received this item, I know I have it in my warehouse, but I want to inspect it before it's available to be sold or before it's available to be picked for production, as one example. And I'll just show you that in the organizational chart, and we'll avoid all. I want to get into too much complexity here, but you'll notice that we have a number of fields here, and one of them is quality statuses. So I can create all sorts of different quality statuses, and I have one for quarantine. And when I have a particular quality status, I can determine if it's in the status, can it be shipped? And I'm saying, no, it cannot. Can it be picked for replenishment? No. So none of these are checked. So quarantine means that I know it's in my warehouse. I've matched the goods receipt to the purchase order, but I'm not going to use this until I inspect it. Obviously, you'd set up an alert. Someone would inspect it. And then we have transition stages. I would say after I've inspected this, I can say, well, it can either be rejected or released, meaning released it's available to use as any other item in your warehouse. But you could have different stages as well. We have workflows, and so we give you a lot of common workflows that you would use in your warehouse, lots of them, and all of them can be edited. And really our goal, and these can be simply edited, is to give you a workflow for your warehouse that matches the way you do business and best practices. And that's really what the implementation is about. And having flexibility in your warehouse for the workflow is very, very important. Okay. Let's do a simple transaction. I'm going to do a simple inbound receipt, show you how to use a handheld device, and then I'll do an order, I'll do a pick, and we'll do some packaging, and we'll get through this fairly quickly. So let's go to purchasing. And I'm going to create a purchase order for excuse me, Coca-Cola. Being here in Atlanta, we buy and sell a lot of Coca-Cola. So I'm going to say I'll take 50 of these. And these are going to be cartons. You'll notice that we have a lot of other fields here for capability. We have different units of measure. If anybody has a situation, some of these units of measure, these multiple units of measures, we've implemented this in, let's say, a tile company where you're selling, you've got a carton of tiles, and the cartons are 12 by 12, and you actually want to know what the square footage is within a carton. We have a lot of other fields that we can have to give you a lot more flexibility, both in your purchasing and in your sales. And obviously, you're not going to have all of these turned on. Like any field you would expect to see in SAP Business One, you can turn them on or off. But we give you a lot more flexibility and capability when it comes to purchasing and also with sales. Okay. So I'm going to add this particular item, and now I have a purchase order called 5 from this particular vendor. I could add a reference number such as Atlanta. And now that I have a purchase order out there, if my job is at the receiving dock and I'm doing purchasing, perhaps this is the only button I have. Underneath this button is additional capabilities. So all of these buttons and functionalities are customized however you would like to have it within your warehouse. So I'm going to do a goods receipt. Now, I could do that a couple of ways. If something arrives, I can read the barcode on the pallet. I can associate it with a purchase order. I can receive goods without a purchase order. And I can receive an entire container of product that you may have received from, a shipment from China, for example. I'm going to receive this with a purchase order. And, okay, there's only one here, but if there was a long list of purchase orders, I could sort on, by typing a number, I could sort on a partial lettering of the name. I could also sort on the reference number Atlanta. So I'm going to select this purchase order. It gives me the option to have identical logistic units or no identical logistic units. All that means would be if you're receiving something that's it's a truckload of 5 identical pallets, I can say I'm going to bring in 5 identical pallets and all those quantities and print labels for them without having to scan each individual pallet. I'm going to say not identical. Here it's saying, hey, at least try to read the label on the pallet so we can try to match it with the purchase order. I'll say there is no logistic label. It says we'll try to read a box. And again, the intent here is to minimize errors. Now these 2 steps I just took you through, you don't really have to use if you don't want, but to the extent that you can use barcoding, you will minimize errors and increase the speed of your warehouse. In this case, I'm going to select the product, and I'll say it's Coca-Cola. In this example, we're going to create a batch number for it. That's an optional, and it says I'm supposed to receive 50 cartons. I've also optionally selected a best before date, so I'm going to give this a 1-year best before date. And then it also gives me optional units of measure to receive. So I'm supposed to receive, here's a little button here, 50 cartons. Now, perhaps it didn't come in exactly that way, so you have some options. But I'm going to say in this case, everything came in fine, 50 cartons. Now we have the system, we made this a print event. Again, this is a workflow. And the system is going to create a label. You don't have to have it create a label, but it's very smart to do. And we have this be a print event, so it automatically prints a label right there in the receiving dock, and you can slap it on. So you can have some consistent labeling within your warehouse. From some of your suppliers, you probably get great labeling. From other suppliers, you don't. It's a very good idea to just have consistent labeling within your own warehouse. If for some reason it didn't print, I am given the option here to reprint it. I will say no. Okay, and so now I can continue to receive more goods. If I just refresh this purchase order, I'll see that it's now closed. And if I go to my relationship map, I'll see that I created a goods receipt PO automatically. Okay, so that, imagine if you will, this was all done from a handheld device in remote part of your warehouse back at the receiving dock, and that's going to show up. It's going to do this transaction within SAP Business One. Okay. The other really informative report we give you is an inventory report. And I can do an inventory report by item, by an item group, by a barcode, storage locations, warehouses, batch numbers from to, item numbers from to, an SSCC. That's essentially, that's an acronym for Serial Shipping Container Code. Think of it as you will as a license plate. Very commonly, it's going to be your pallet ID. It's a little bit more functional than just that. Think of it as a license plate. But I can pull up an inventory report very, very easily. I can even do it by quality status. So I'm going to say, show me everything. And I'm going to see that the last thing that came in is some Coca-Cola. So this gives me a list of all the items that I have right now in my warehouse. I, of course, can filter this any which way I'd like. I have some Coca-Cola. I have a batch number associated with it. Here's my goods receipt date. Here is my sell-by date. Here is my, in this case, pallet number. And I see that it's at the receiving dock. And I see the status is released. And I see what my quantity is, etc. Everything, this is very, very good visibility into your inventory and all the different locations. From this screen, I can do a lot of things. So, for example, I can select that item, and I could, if I was so authorized, I could change the quality status. So very often if something comes in quarantined, somebody's going to get an alert, and they would want to inspect it for whatever reason, and then change the status from quarantine to release. Or if there's some reason where I've just received this, I could change it from received to quarantined or something else, right? You can do some other things. I could lock this particular stock if I wanted to a particular, I could lock any stock to a particular customer or to a particular sales order. I could do it right from the screen. So that's capability you don't normally see within Standard Business One. I can print labels from this location. I can create a move order from this location. So it's a very powerful screen. Okay? Now, I've also set up a workflow that says when I receive it, I want to do an automatic put away. So when I do a put away, I see I've got some 2 transactions. And one of them is this one where I have a, excuse me, here is the 1328 pallet ID. And I did a transaction before that also has a put away waiting. I'm going to copy that to make it easy. So imagine, if you will, somebody will just be reading that barcode quickly, and I can put that away. Do you want to move it all at one time? Typically, you want to move the entire pallet, but maybe it's broken apart, busted in 2, so I'll say yes. And I can select a destination location. I can have the system select an empty location, or there may be a default location for this item. So I'll just select the location. I'll say I'm going to put it here. Okay, and now it's moved. Here's another item. And I can also move that just by reading its pallet ID. I'll move it all at one time. Select the location, and I will put it here too. Okay. Now, when I refresh this screen, you're going to see these last 2 items are going to be in a different location. And they're both at the B002 location. Okay. One other thing I'm going to just show you a little bit here of, just in case anybody has any traceability requirements. We have a report called the traceability report, and really at any time I can track an item or a batch of an item or a barcode. I can do traceability on a packaging line or a production line, and I can do it on a from till date. I can do it forward. I can do it backward. So if I have this item code here, such as Coca-Cola, I get some automatic traceability. I see that I have 3 different batches, and we are going to track everything through the process. So you just inherit this traceability. I'm going to have links to the goods receipt. If we sell anything, I'm going to have links to the delivery documents, any movements in the warehouse. Here you can see something came in at the receiving dock, was moved to this location, went from this location to a movable cart, and from there to a packaging line, and from there to the sending dock. So I see where it's moved throughout the warehouse. I can see any quality status changes. If it was a raw material, I could see issues to production. If it was a finished good, I would see a receipt from production, what your stock is, and all of this traceability you inherit. Okay? So we'll close out of that. Now let's just move on to a sales order. So I will select a customer. You'll notice you have different types of sales orders, and I can choose a type of pick list for cross-docking a standard. I'm going to choose a item. I think I'll choose some Coca-Cola. I think I will choose some Nutella from our friends at Ferrero. I think I'll sell a quantity of 50 of these. I think I'll sell a quantity of 5 of these. And you'll also notice that there's a lot of other fields here again that you can use. They give you a lot more flexibility, a lot more capability, and obviously you don't have to use them all. I'm showing them a lot just for demonstration purposes to know that Produmex gives you a lot more flexibility when it comes to order entry. So let's give this a delivery date. I'll make it today. I'll add this. And here is my sales order. Now, from this screen, I can do a couple things. If I want, I can create a pick list proposal directly from this order. I'll mention if anybody is in the medical devices and you need to link serial numbers to an order, you can do that here. I also wanted to show when it comes to shipping type, I'm going to choose automatic shipping. You'll see that in the transaction. I'll update this. Contents. I can create a pick list proposal directly here. So you can do a couple things, over the course of a day. You can have all your orders collected. You can then run pick lists on all of them, pick list proposals on all of them. So I'm going to bring up a pick list proposal. Before I do that, I think I'll just maybe mention that I can add some pick list remarks, such as hurry. So I can add those remarks here. And you'll see they appear in the pick list proposal. If I hadn't added them at the sales order level, I could still add them here. These will appear on the handheld device for the person doing the picking. So here I have these items. I'm just going to expand this a little bit. And let's say you had a long pick list. We give you a column here and it says full stock. And you either have A for all, P for partial, or N for none. Sometimes it's just easier to go down this column and look for A, P's, and N's rather than have to read across and see what your reserved and open quantities are. We also have something called stock compliant shelf life. You remember maybe you've got certain items that have a sell-by date and you have customers that require different sell-by dates. So we're going to create a pick list specific for a customer, and this pick list proposal will do all of that selection for us. So I'll say this looks good, and I'm going to generate a pick list. And here's my pick list, which of course looks fairly similar to the pick list proposal. Now, automatically, you will see if I'm performing a sales function, such as picking, multi-picking, zone picking, ad hoc picking, mobile picking, shipping, sales return. Again, these are all functions that you can choose to use or not use, and or add over time. I'm going to do a very simple picking transaction. And here is my pick list number 4 for this particular customer. Here's my note that says hurry. And here it's telling me, it's saying, take you the soles of your feet and walk over to this location and pick this Nutella. And this location is saying, take the soles of your shoes and walk to a blank location. And that's actually a little mistake I've made, just to show you an example. I put the Coca-Cola in a bulk location that's not a pick location. But I've got some functionality to allow you to work around that on the fly. So I'll say for this Nutella, I'm going to go pick this. I can put this on a movable location. I think I will. I'm going to put it on this first cart and identify the pick location. I can select it. I can typically, you'll just scan it. I can type it, right? And I can select the product. Here's my Nutella. And I'm supposed to pick 5, so that's what I'll do. Items are picked. Now I have to go get the Coca-Cola. So, and it says select the location. Oops, excuse me. That location is not pickable, so I'm going to say other task. I'll say it's an alternate item, and I'll say here's some Coca-Cola, and there's 50 cartons. So I'll take this. The alternate item, I took this, and identify the pick location. And it's saying I can't do it because I'm making a mistake. See if it lets me do this. Okay, select the product, and here's my Coca-Cola. And here I have, in this case, I have batch numbers. They all have the, and if some of these had different dates on them, and you had to pick a certain date, it's telling me to take the oldest first. And here I have 50 cartons I'm to pick. I'll take 50, and the items are picked. Okay. Now, just to show you an example of how our packaging lines work, if I was on the shop floor and I was doing packaging, I'll say, well, I'm on packaging line 1, and I want to enter the information from the cart. Typically, you would do this by barcode. See if this is correct. And here are the items that are on that cart that I want to package. So imagine, if you will, you had an order, you had a lot of different items, you want to package them, you want to shrink wrap them, you want to put them on a pallet, and you want to ship that pallet off. And here I've got my quantity of Nutella and my Coca-Cola. I can select all of these. I'm going to add all these items to my packaging, and then I'll finish a logistic unit. Then it's automatically printing me a label. Again, that is a print event that's sort of set up with workflow. And let's see where that is. Here's your sort of standard label from to on your pallet. And I'm also, do you want to reprint the label? I'll say no. And now it's saying, please move this logistic unit to your sending dock 1, shipping type on document would be UPS automatic. That's a workflow. I could have had it where someone actually takes it from the packing station, waves a wand over it, and brings it to your shipping location. This is just a particular workflow I chose. And now it's adding a delivery note, and it's printing my delivery. Okay, and I don't want to reprint it. So now, if I look at my delivery, and here it's who's the customer, delivery number, and what I'm shipping them. I've got a pallet ID on here. These items have batch numbers on them. They also have sell-by dates. These are all done in Crystal Report, so you can customize them however you'd like to. Okay, and if I go back and I follow my SAP and I just refresh this, I'll see the sales order is closed, and I'll see that the system automatically created the delivery, all done with a handheld device. And those items that I've shipped will no longer be in my inventory report. However, if I go to my traceability, and let's say I take my Coca-Cola, and here I see where I have my, let's say, here's a delivery note for this particular batch. So this particular batch, which is the oldest, I've got 2 delivery notes, one of them being this one right here. And you have links to your sales delivery notes, you have links to your goods receipt. I see what my movements are throughout the warehouse. Remember, it came in at the receiving dock. I put it to a bulk location. From a bulk location, I put it on a cart. From a cart, I put it to the front of my packaging line. Although this looks tedious, it happens automatically. You inherit this. To the extent that any of your products are in a regulated industry, this can be very, very important. If this was a raw material that I issued to production, you'd see it. Same with receipts. Of course, I also know that for this batch, I still have a quantity of 540 cans in stock. Okay? So that's just sort of a quick overview of Produmex Advanced Warehouse Manufacturing. We have, I did a simple transaction of receiving a good, taking an order, doing a pick list. I'll mention that we also have some capabilities for production, where we have extended the bill of materials to give you optional products. You have quantity tolerances of those products. We have certain products that might be lined up to a packaging or a production line, be they liquids or powders or some type of tubing, so you don't have to do any actual picking and moving. A lot of capability there as well. But what I wanted to focus on today was more the advanced warehouse manufacturing. And Bonnie, I think with 15 minutes left, maybe we can open it up for some questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, before we do that, I just wanted to quickly ask you, so we can include on the recording of this presentation, what do you think are the main kind of highlights of features and functions of Produmex, the warehouse solution?
Yeah.
Maybe, you could touch on the, actually, I'll let you go on to that.
Yeah, well, I was going to say number one would be the fact the advanced locations. So today people just have warehouses. Now we give them much more than just even bins. We're going to give them receiving locations, bulk locations, a lot more capability there. And then of course obviously the thin clients for the handheld devices and for the production line.
Perfect.
And I think we just lost Dave.
Yeah, we did.
So those are really the big things, because if you want to automate your warehouse, you really have to have handheld devices in the warehouse. You have to start doing some barcode reading for your movements and receiving and shipping and packaging. So those would be the really big things.